What's happening YouTube? This is my first video that I'm going to upload of me reacting to people's videos about Vietnam. As you know, I live here in Vietnam. I'm an expat here from the United States of America. I live in Saigon, officially known as Ho Chi Minh City. And I'm going to review this video from Where's West. The title of his video is Living in Vietnam Sucks, in all caps. Here's why. I'm going to take a look at this video, give my honest reaction and opinion on what he has to say. Okay, here we go, Wes.
Vietnam recently has gotten a lot of hype for being one of the best destinations for digital nomads. But is it really worth the hype? Today we're gonna find out. So if I'm being honest, I think Vietnam has a lot more pros than cons, even though at the end of the day, I would never live there.
Okay. I guess that title was a little clickbaitish, more pros than cons, but let's see what he has to say. I think he's going to start out with
The biggest issue that I have with Vietnam is the infrastructure. This is a big problem in all of Southeast Asia, but in Vietnam, it is some of the worst that I've ever seen in my life. They are notorious for how bad the traffic is, and it's something that you really have to see for yourself to believe. People are even riding their motorcycles on the sidewalks. That's how chaotic it is.
Okay, yeah, we call it organized chaos, and it is shocking at first when you first move here. However, to be fair to him, they have increased the fine, started January 1st, 2025. So the riding up and down on the sidewalks has been severely decreased. I'm talking 95% of that is no longer exist. And also they've opened up a metro here. Metro started operating here recently. So the traffic is improved. I've gotten used to it. I think the flow of traffic is better than some cities like Bangkok and Kuala Lumpur because there are more motorbikes here than cars. But yeah, it's fair, but what he said is from last year. This information has now been updated.
I value order and rules, and Vietnam is a place that does not have that. If you go to District 1 in Saigon, it feels like I'm in a European city or Russia or Ukraine or something like that. And then you just go one district over, and all of a sudden it's poor.
Okay. I live in District 1. This was recently occupied by the French. I guess you see some old Soviet era type buildings because of the communist aspect of it, but it does not feel like a European country, in my opinion. There's a few French style, colonial style buildings here, but other than that, no, this is a sprawling metropolis. And so keep going and see what he has to say.
It's dirty, it's extremely loud, super polluted, so it's really a tale of two worlds. So in general, Vietnam seems to be a little less developed than Thailand. However, there's a big push for education, so I think they're going to be developing quite quickly over the next few years.
True, there is a huge push for education, and it is a developing country. He mentioned one district over, it's dirty and all that type stuff. Listen, the center of the city, any major city, is going to be, the government's going to do their best to keep that clean because that's where the money is, that's where the tourism is, that's where the banks are. And so you can go anywhere, Chicago, New York, outside of the city is going to be less appealing. And that's no different here in Saigon.
But as of this moment, I feel like their infrastructure is not that developed. There's no real good public transportation either. At least in Bangkok, they have a metro system. Vietnam does not have any of that. So you have to take your own moto or taxi. But the crazy thing is that in my whole entire time there...
Okay, we'll come back to that. Like I mentioned before, we do have a metro system now. It's nowhere near as efficient and as great as what Thailand has, but it does exist now. Yes, the traffic can be chaotic, but Grab bikes here are extremely cheap. So if you're gonna come to Vietnam, download the Grab app and you will not be disappointed.
I think I only saw one accident ever, which really blows my mind.
True. I've said it many times. The Vietnamese are the best drivers in the world. I don't care how long you've ridden your Harley or your Ducati in your country. You cannot drive a motorbike better than a Vietnamese person. You see children asleep in their mother's arms on the front of motorbikes with their parents just zipping through town. Like, it is truly amazing. And I've only seen 2 accidents since I've been here. Not severe at all. And I'm talking in a city of millions of people and millions of motorbikes.
There's just like this vibe in the air that everything's just extremely dirty and not well kept. So I remember I was walking around in Saigon and there were rats everywhere. There is a lot of trash in the street. There's a lot of open livestock everywhere. And there's just no sense of real cleanliness. Pollution in general is just a big issue all over Southeast Asia. And I always find myself developing a cough and experiencing a lot of skin issues. They also don't...
Yeah, there's some areas can be unappealing, but Vietnam is doing the best they can to try to educate their people on, cleanliness, and they're doing a better job with, cleaning up, and that's gonna lead to less rats and things like that. Addressing your problem when it comes to the pollution, you just have to wear a mask. I mean, you can't live here for extended amount of time and not be affected by the air pollution that's coming from the motorbikes, really, that are running around. So he's right about that. I wear a mask daily.
Don't have drinkable tap water, and this is a big issue in all of Asia. When I was staying in Da Nang, my building actually had a filtered system so I could drink from the tap. So eating street food is kind of a gamble if you're not used to it. But I know a lot of Westerners get shocked by the lack of cleanliness, because if you see the way people are cooking their food or the way that they're cleaning the dishes for the street food, most people will think to themselves this is not hygienic at all. So
Don't let that stop you. I was concerned when I first started coming over to this part of the world. However, take some traveler's probiotic. It will help. Use some common sense. If meat's been sitting out, you can't eat that. The locals can eat it. They're used to eating meat like that, the different bacteria. You can't do it. Use some common sense. If you haven't seen the meat being cooked in front of you, or if you see they're taking the meat that's been hanging there and they're going to try to grill it in front of you, you can't eat that meat. Use some common sense, but do not let that stop you from eating street food. You're cheating yourself. You came too far to miss out on some of the best food in the world, and that is going to be found on the street.
one of the reasons why I would not live in Vietnam is the language barrier. Thankfully, compared to other Asian languages, it is written in Roman alphabet, so you can kind of make out what people are saying. But compared to a place like Thailand or the Philippines, there's not a lot of people.
You can't make out what people are saying based on the alphabet. I don't know where he's getting that from. It's a tonal language. So what does the alphabet have to do with anything? And even if you think you can pronounce it because you know what C-A-C is supposed to sound like in English, has nothing to do with what the word is going to mean. So I don't follow you on that, Wes, but the language barrier is an issue, especially because it's a tonal language and it's very difficult.
People in Vietnam that speak English. For me personally, every time I try to move somewhere, I want to take it upon myself to learn about the culture and try to integrate as much with the people. And what's the point of going to a different country just to make expat friends? But I do like the fact that they don't speak English.
100%. One of the reasons why I didn't stay in the expat bubble. Great point. I didn't want to move here and not live with the Vietnamese. So, yeah, great point. Good job, Wes.
They haven't really been exposed to Western media yet, because I think because of that, they're a lot more traditional in a lot of their beliefs. Vietnam is more of an authentic Asian experience compared to some of the other countries in Southeast Asia.
I agree with that, 100%. They haven't sold out to the West, at least not yet. And I'm not saying all countries over here have, but you definitely feel a more Western vibe in Kuala Lumpur, KL as they call it, and also certain parts of Thailand. Vietnam is a lot more traditional East Asian, and also to their culture. They haven't sold out yet, in my opinion.
Another problem Vietnam has is that it's very difficult to get a long-term visa there. Thailand recently announced a digital nomad visa. In the Philippines, you can get up to a 3-year visa as well. But in Vietnam, most of the people that I know have to do visa runs every 90 days and have to constantly be applying for a new tourist visa. That has worked for a lot of my friends. They'll just go to Thailand for a couple days and come back, and they seem to not have any problems. I personally am just not a fan of Southeast Asian weather.
So going back to the visa situation, I have nothing to add. He's totally correct about that.
It's just hot and humid and hotter and more humid. Some people like that. It's just not for me personally.
If you don't like hot and humid, don't come to southern Vietnam. It can be chilly, in fact, up in the mountains and in northern Vietnam and even some central areas of Vietnam. But where I am, it's the rainy season and it's the dry season, but it's always summer, always hot. It's always 70 when you wake up, sometimes 75, 80 when you wake up, depending on the season, and well into the 90s every day. But I've gotten used to it.
I like 4 seasons. I like colder weather. Okay, so we got to talk about some cultural differences. This is a very interesting topic because out of all the Asian countries that I visited, I actually felt the most at home culturally in Vietnam compared to maybe Thailand and the Philippines. I'm Chinese, right? And a few of my cousins are dating or married to Vietnamese girls, and that seems to be a really good fit. There's a lot of cultural similarities between us. However, if you come from a Western country, if you're white, Black or Latino, I think the cultural difference is going to be very intense for a lot of people. Vietnamese people, like Polish people, are very cold at first, but once you get to know them, then they open up to you and they're a lot more smiley. I think I was treated well because I could pass as Vietnamese, so people didn't really see any issue with me, and once I started waving at my neighbors, everybody waved back at me. A couple
That's his experience. I don't agree with that. As far as my experience as a Black American, I've never felt anyone cold to me at all since I've been here. That's just my experience, and most of the people I've talked to here, I think they're the warmest culture I've ever visited in my 33 countries. So I can't speak to his experience, maybe because he says he can pass for Vietnamese. I guess to the untrained eye he can, but I'm telling you, the Vietnamese can tell a Chinese person right off the bat. They just can, and you know, it's Koreans and everything. It's a different look, and maybe they were cold to you because of the relationship that some have with the Chinese, with the relationship between the two countries. I don't know, but I'm just telling you, it was not my experience. That's all I'm saying, Wes.
times when I went out to dinner and I saw this one white guy with a bunch of Vietnamese people and he just looked so lost. He was probably on a Tinder date. He probably didn't understand the culture. He doesn't speak the language. And it just seemed like he was super out of place. So because Vietnam is still a developing country, it's not necessarily a place that I would like to raise my kids in. It doesn't make a lot of sense coming from a first world country and having a stronger passport and then moving to one of these third world countries to settle down for the long term. Vietnam and many of the Southeast Asian countries, it's easy to get lost just wandering for a couple of years because it's so cheap and life is so good. There's also
Yeah, their passport here is not very strong. I guess it depends on where you are in life if you want to move and settle down here. It was good for me. I'm 47 years old, so.
also limited work opportunity for foreigners. I imagine if you want to work there, you're going to have to eventually learn Vietnamese at some point. And their work culture is extremely intense. If you come from America or an East Asian country, it's things that we're used to. But if you come from like a European country, it's going to be a huge culture shock for you. There's internet censorship in Vietnam. It's still a socialist country. The government censors a lot of things. So while you're traveling around the world, sometimes it's very difficult to find reliable Wi-Fi. You can go about the food. It's not as flavorful as Thai food, but I kind of like the simplicity of Vietnamese food and how healthy it is.
I'm gonna stop you there. I like Thai food too. It's a little too rich for me, but he's correct. Vietnamese food is simple, flavorful, and just absolutely delicious. I think it's the best cuisine in the world. Let's see what else he has to say.
There's a reason why Vietnam is the skinniest country in the world. If you look at their cuisine, the meals are very light and they use a lot of herbs. I found myself eating like 4 to 5 times a day in Vietnam, and it's so easily accessible that you only eat when you're hungry.
True, flavorful, and I think they perfected the portions. I think that's one of the reasons why they have the lowest obesity. Also, the freshness of the food. They don't have a bunch of additives and all that crazy stuff in it for the most part, especially where I'm from in America. So I totally get it. He's totally correct. I love it. It is delicious. Keep talking, Wes. You're doing great.
The best thing about Southeast Asia is that it's actually cheaper to go out and eat on the street than it is to cook at home. Of course, the number
People don't believe me when I say that. He is right. I've cooked here twice. In my apartment, I eat out every day. Every day. I can just walk out my apartment, look in any direction within 100 meters and get whatever I want. It is delicious food.
Number one reason why people are moving to Vietnam is the cost of living. It's extremely cheap. You can definitely get by on $1,000 a month. For what you pay and what you get, I think Vietnam still has incredible value. This is a big problem in all.
Even in the most expensive city in Vietnam, Saigon, where I live on less than $1,000 a month. So I think I skipped something. Let me get back here. Here we go.
$1,000 a month. For what you pay and what you get, I think Vietnam still has incredible value. To me, Vietnamese women are the most beautiful Asian.
Hey. Have to agree with that, sir. Keep going. Preach.
Women out there. They have these really delicate, soft facial features. They look Chinese, East Asian, but instead of being extremely skinny or having rectangular bodies like a lot of Asian girls do, Vietnamese women have curves. To me, it's kind of like the perfect mix because they have the culture that's similar to mine, they have a body type that I like, and they have beautiful faces. In general, the girls prefer to be with Asian guys rather than foreigners. They actually have a bad term for a lot of the white foreigners that go to Vietnam, losers at home, which I thought was quite funny.
I've heard that once or twice. Not about me. Maybe behind my back, I don't know. But yeah, they aren't into foreigners. They are in some countries here, maybe in Thailand and some other countries, Philippines. They're into their culture. They're about Vietnam here.
Different to the West, a lot of people will live at home until they get married. I've heard that in Hanoi, the women are a lot more traditional, and as you go down to Saigon, the women are a little more liberal and I guess free and independent. But for the most part, Vietnam is still quite a traditional country. Courting is still common, asking the dad for permission to go out with the girl or to marry her. So interesting enough, the beaches in Vietnam were the most surprising thing to me. I spent 5 weeks in Da Nang. It's one of my favorite cities in the world. You rent a motorbike for the month and you just have unlimited freedom to explore the city. It's a beautiful city. There's a lot of great places to eat. The beach was extremely clean and well kept. I think the thing that really stood out to me the most about Vietnam.
I have to stop it there. Yeah, the beaches in Vietnam are surprisingly beautiful. So yeah, definitely if you're gonna go to Da Nang or a place like that, rent a motorbike. I wouldn't suggest you rent a motorbike in Hanoi or especially in Saigon. You're not ready for Saigon riding a motorbike. It takes some time to get used to the traffic here. I ride now, and it's giving me the confidence to ride a motorbike anywhere in the world if you can ride in Saigon. However, if you even just can ride a motorbike a little outside of the major cities, definitely you want to take in the sights and the nature of Vietnam on the back of a motorbike.
Was how deep of a cultural experience it was. When you live in Vietnam, you really get to experience things like the locals do. Being able to see all the neon signs, get on the street with a bunch of locals. Vietnam is also a very beautiful, diverse country. You can go to Dalat up in the mountains. You can do the Ha Giang Loop. There's a lot of beautiful nature in Vietnam. One of my favorite things is the nightlife, right? I just feel like their style of life is very similar to how I like to live my life. There's a lot of amazing things to do at night. You can get a meal up until 2 in the morning.
Yep, street food all night. People come out at night, especially in Saigon, because it's hot. They take the nap during the daytime. At night, everybody goes out. You'll see people out, children. Every member of the family is out late, eating some food, sitting out in front of a cafe, sitting out in front of their homes, enjoying the cool air at night.
They have a bunch of computer cafes everywhere. And they also like karaoke a lot. It's quite funny. You'll just hear some random Vietnamese grandpa singing really poorly at the top of his lungs. I loved how easy it was to get a moto there and then being able to ride around the city. And I feel like I really got to blend in and experience what it was like as a local. Vietnam is also incredibly safe. Nothing bad is really going to happen to you. Latin America is cheap, but there's a lot of safety issues. Thankfully in Vietnam.
True that. I've been to a couple cities in South America, Latin America, Central America, and the safest I've ever felt has been here in Vietnam. So he's totally correct about that. You just live your life, learn how to cross the street, especially here in Saigon, and you'll be fine.
Not only is it cheaper, it's also extremely safe. And that to me is extreme value. My favorite part about Vietnam is the fashion. Everything is made in Vietnam, so you can go straight to the source. Very well fitted, high quality clothing for the price. There's a store in Da Nang that I love called G-Men, and I bought so many clothes from them. I know a lot of people that like to get tailored things there. You can get a tailored suit, you can get a tailored dress. They have so many good options. Vietnam is also a rapidly developing country, and it's exciting being a part of a country like that. There's going to be a lot of opportunity in the future, and there's just an energy in the air right now, very similar to Poland, that they want to take their country to the next level.
Absolutely, and I'm here for it, especially with the tariff wars going on between China, as Trump would say, and in the U.S. A lot of companies have their eye on Vietnam, and they are going to welcome that business and these opportunities with open arms. So overall, I would just say West did a pretty good job. Other than his title, he says it sucks. Doesn't sound like he described his time here as being sucked as it sucked, I should say. But good job. Follow his channel. It's called Where's West. Good job, West. Look forward to seeing more videos from you. If you have any questions about moving to Vietnam, moving to Southeast Asia, just feel free to hit me up. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. This is Tyler the Expat, live from Vietnam.